public university in Ohio has agreed to pay $400,000 to one of its professors. Why? It had rebuked him for refusing to use a student's preferred pronouns. And he just made cash off of that. This is starting back in 2018. Nicholas Meriwether, a philosophy professor at Shawnee State University in Southern Ohio, addressed a transgender student as sir when she raised her hand in class. This prompted the university to launch an investigation into the incident. It found that Meriwether had created a hostile environment in the classroom. And you can see him right here, and you already know most of what you need to know about all this. Anyway, the university delivered Meriwether a written warning that stated that he could be fired or suspended without pay for violating the university's non-discrimination policy. He asked if referring to all students by self-asserted gender identity and including a disclaimer in his syllabus that noted he was only doing so under compulsion would comply with the university's policies, which he was told would not. No word on if they followed up that that's the pettiest, I'm not gonna swear, stuff I've ever heard, but they told him that he couldn't just do that. He also offered to refer to the students by either first or last preferred legal name without using gendered titles, but continued to refuse to refer to the student as a woman. So they ruled that he should use the student's correct pronouns, which he said was contrary to his religious convictions and philosophical beliefs. And perhaps it's contrary to some of his philosophical beliefs. What religious conviction is using someone's preferred pronoun? Like, did Jesus ever talk about that? Was that the Sermon on the Mount? No.
I actually
what's in your pants? That's what Jesus said.
It's in 2 Corinthians. I swear.
I think it might have been. No,
it's in 2 Corinthians.
I'm an atheist, so it ain't up to me, but I think that's BS. I don't think this is one of your religious convictions. It might be correlated with your religion, surely, but it ain't foundational as so much of American political religious expression isn't. Anyway, there was a lawsuit that he filed against the university. The school tried to get it thrown out. Last year, though, the US Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit ruled in favor of him. The judges, all of whom were Republican appointees, 2 of them Trump appointees, by the way, said that he had violated his First Amendment rights. And as part of the settlement, $400,000 as well as his legal fees would be transferred over. Now, you are the lawyer here. You're the expert. I don't know anything. That seems like a lot of money.
Oh, it definitely is a lot of money, especially for this kind of case. And the thing that makes this unique is that Ohio University is likely a public institution, and that's why the whole First Amendment right came in here. Because if you were at a private entity, it would not matter, and you would be out if you were done. But also, this seems to be completely and totally wrong. What it's doing is elevating someone's purported First Amendment right to call you whatever they want to call you, while oppressing you and discriminating against you at the same time. That's not okay. They shouldn't be able to call you anything you want. You can't go to someone's workplace and start yelling racial epithets at them and expect it to be acceptable. So as far as I'm concerned, the Sixth Circuit got it completely wrong.
Exactly. Well, I would argue they were chosen to get things like this completely wrong. I agree with you right there. By the way, I'd like to point out that of all of the people in the country to be unable to question their, in this case, basically admitting that it's religious dogma, it's a false misconception of religion that he has turned into dogma in his head, is causing him to do this. That of all of the people to not be able to differentiate between biological genitalia or whatever and someone's orientation, for a philosophy professor to not be able to expand your mind enough to do that seems a little bit odd. No, nothing exists that is not rooted in my misconceptions of biology. That's a weird thing for a philosophy professor. Like, again, he's an academic. He must know that this is not a new thing. There has been any number of different gender expressions and sexual orientations across time and space and geography and history in different cultures. This isn't new. Why do we all of a sudden have to relitigate this all in the last 3 years, Adrienne?
Oh, it's because of control and the thought that this cis heteronormative world is losing control. The opportunity to know that you are the norm and anything else that strays from that will be punished is something that people get their jollies off of. And the thought that there is going to be any kind of diversity and it's going to be embraced and that you have to respect it, that is what closed-minded people will fight against. They will fight tooth and nail because they built their identities around being able to be on top, to be number one, to be able to say no one else is normal. No one else can be treated right or respectfully unless they adhere to the same practices that I do and the same belief structures. And so that's what this is about. Individuals like this professor are fighting to maintain their identity, which is rooted in oppressing other people.
Yeah, you're totally right about your read about the honestly the philosophy of it. Yeah. On a personal level, like this is the battle that you're gonna face. You're a full-grown adult. You're a professional. You've got degrees and stuff. You can't call like, let's say that you are as small-minded as you're implying that you are. That you can't, by maybe getting to know people, start to understand an experience that's not immediately apparent to you. Just do it, man. There was once a guy named Derek that I went to college with who wanted to be called D-Rock. And I thought that was a super douchey thing for him to insist. Called D-Rock occasionally. I didn't understand why he wanted it. Just do it and move on with your life. There are larger things. Anyway, I hope he still doesn't go by D-Rock. It never really fit. You just look at him, you don't see D-Rock, you see Derek.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.